Hello and welcome to the Golden Octagon MMA podcast number 1. I am Matt Anderson, and on the other side of my screen is Dorian Rose. Dorian, how are you today, man?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
All right.
All right. Up and roll, man.
All right. Nice. We're going to give a quick breakdown of today's show. We're going to go over today's topics right before we get started. But anything like you want to say right before we get started, Dorian?
I think I'm just ready to roll, man. Ready to get it started.
All right. So up first today, we will be talking about our top 3 fights that we are looking forward to this year. These are fights that are already scheduled. Maybe not signed yet, but already scheduled on the UFC's plan. Then next, we will talk about Mystic Mac. Conor McGregor is back. He predicted he was going to knock out Dustin Porier in under 60 seconds. So, we have to talk about the notorious Conor McGregor, but we won't spend too much time on that. And then next, we will talk about the top 3 fighters that we are looking forward to seeing this year that currently do not have a fight scheduled. This could be newcomers. This could be old heads, as we like to call them. Anyone in the UFC that does not currently have a fight scheduled that we personally want to see. And then after that, we will talk about the return of TJ Dillashaw. I like to say this is Dorian's favorite fighter on earth. For some reason, this man goes hard for TJ Dillashaw. But Dana White just recently had an interview. I don't remember if it was on ESPN or with BT Sport, but he said he was questioned about TJ Dillashaw, and he said that TJ knew where he was at, that he would know if he wanted to fight for the championship or fight someone else. So we will go over that. And then lastly, we will break down and make our picks for this weekend's fight card. Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar on Fight Island in Abu Dhabi. But that's how we are running down today's show. Dorian, here we go. You ready for it?
Let's go.
All right,
ready,
man.
baby.
All right, here we go. But up first, Dorian, you don't know about this topic. I did not send this to you beforehand. I just want your first impressions on us finally doing this podcast. We've been friends for a long time. We've known each other for a super long time. What is your first impressions on us finally doing this podcast? We've talked about it for a long time. Go ahead.
Yeah, it kind of feels surreal, man. Finally getting this thing going because, we always watch MMA all the time and a lot of UFC, and we'll be watching the events and we'll message each other back and forth on what happened in this fight or fight announcements, things of that nature. So being able to kind of look at our messages and kind of laugh about the combos that we have, being able to put it in a podcast form and kind of let other people hear us just have our casual conversations, man.
Definitely.
I really like that idea.
Yeah, for sure. Finally, for those of you who don't know, I've known this man for over 20 years at this point. We went to the same elementary school, both fight fans, so it's just pretty cool finally being able to sit down and do this. There we go. Shout out FBE. Was his name Puff the Magic Dragon or something like that? I don't remember. Shout out FBE from back in the day. Alright, but enough with that. We will go on to our first real topic of the day. What fight are you most looking forward to this upcoming year that's already scheduled?
So I kind of went a different route on these topics a little bit. So I kind of went with ones that aren't officially booked just yet, but they're kind of whispers on that it's going to happen. So the first one that I'm thinking off top automatically is Stipe versus Francis, man.
Okay.
I gotta see that rematch.
All right.
Francis has been on an absolute tear, dude, taking people's heads off. I mean, just the way that he just absolutely obliterated Jairzinho Rose's strike in his last fight.
Definitely.
Just 20 seconds, and he just came in and just took his freaking head off, dude. No one can stand in there with Francis, except for the one who has only done it, and that's for Stipe.
Yeah.
And, Stipe is a little bit longer in the tooth now. And I know a lot of people said when he got knocked out by DC in their first fight was DC probably had that because Francis put the beating on Stipe in their previous fight.
Definitely. I would have to agree. I would have to agree.
Francis can complete the job on this one.
Definitely. That is one that was, when I originally sent you this, I had sent you top 5. That was definitely one on my top 5, but it did not make my top 3, believe it or not. So my number 1 for my top 3, you might already know what it is. Khamzat versus Edwards. I want to see that so bad. I want to see where Khamzat Chimaev is at. Is he elite? from everything that I've seen, this dude looks like the real deal, dude. He looks like he's coming in and mashing everyone in sight. That is the number one fight that I am looking forward to this year. But we have two more fights that we have to say that we are also looking forward to this year. So go ahead with your second one, Dorian.
And so my second one kind of actually plays off my first pick a little bit.
Okay.
And that pick would be John Jones versus the winner of Francis Ngannou.
Okay.
Seeing the long-awaited arrival of John Jones at heavyweight, he's starting to bulk up and do his thing. So you have to let Francis get his shot first, just because he's earned it at this point, just the way he's taking everybody out. But other than that, there's no really worthy contenders at heavyweight that's kind of banging the door down at this moment. Seeing John Jones finally move up to heavyweight to see if he can cement his status as the best fighter of all time, I'm going to be really excited to see him finally take that next step and see if he can become the double champ.
I think we're all excited to see John Jones finally make the move up to heavyweight. You know as well as I know, ever since, I believe, 2010, when I first saw John Jones fight, he's been my favorite fighter. I will go out on a shield to let you know that John Jones is the GOAT, the greatest of all time, but it is okay. My number two fight that I'm looking forward to this year is Brian Ortega versus Alexander Volkanovski. I am so excited to see that, dude. You also know Brian Ortega, one of my favorites. I thought he was going to beat Max. Obviously, that didn't happen. But one of my favorites, he came back looking like a completely different person against the Korean Zombie. So I'm definitely stoked to see what he is going to look like. And I think that's announced. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that's the fight that they're trying to make. I can't see them making anyone else at this point. I don't think anyone else deserves it. I mean, the only person that Ortega lost to has been Max, and so I believe he deserves that shot. I think that should be made this year, and if it does, that is one that I'm definitely going to be looking forward to this year. Go ahead with your third one.
All right, and my third one, so I kind of went a little off grid on this one too. It's been one that's been kind of boiling up for the last couple months or so. There's been a lot of smack talk on social media, and it's Joaquin Buckley versus James Krause, man.
Oh, okay.
James Krause he really stirred the pot after that last Buckley KO. After the kick Buckley KO.
I actually just watched an interview on him probably 10 minutes ago, and like Joaquin Buckley said in the interview that if he wanted to see him, then come to the gym. So I guess that's an open invitation.
Yeah,
anyway, but go ahead. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, you're fine. I actually appreciate the input, kind of letting me know that there's actually more to this beat.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, after Joaquin Buckley had the spinning kick knockout against Empire Saganai, James Krause came out and had a lot of smack to say about Joaquin Buckley.
Definitely.
And saying that, he was a bad training partner and that, he could smoke him any day. And he might not have said that much, but he was definitely throwing some dirt on Joaquin Buckley's name. For sure. Buckley, after his last win, he had actually really called out James Krause and put some fire behind that interview with Joe Rogan to kind of stamp that he really wanted that shot against James Krause. So that, with the beef that they got going on, there's a lot of personal stuff going on there. Love to see the dudes get in the octagon and slug it out. That
is one that I would also definitely love to see. James Krause, I would never not bet on James Krause. If there's any fight, I for sure will bet that fight will go over 1.5 rounds. James Krause is just that dude. You're not getting him out of there. You're just not. He's that dude. So I guess I'll go on to my third pick. I don't know. I feel like this is up there for everyone. I'm going Aljamain Sterling, Aljo versus Peter Yan, however you want to say it. That is one that I feel like Aljamain Sterling has been knocking at that door for a couple years now. At this point, he just kicked it in. He went out there, demolished Sandhagen. He is the one that definitely deserves this fight. I believe they just announced it for late March, or something like that.
I believe it's supposed to be the March 6th card. Actually, the same fight card with Israel Adesanya and Jan Blachowicz.
Okay, so perfect. That one's already announced, so that is definitely one of the ones that I am definitely looking forward to this year. I believe Aljo's that guy, dude. I'm definitely excited to see Aljo versus Jan. But man,
I'm excited to see Aldo too, man. The way that he made that statement against Sandhagen, dude, and being able to submit him in just a short amount of time that he was able to, and then see Sandhagen turn around and have the performance that he did against Marlon.
Yeah.
So that Sandhagen's definitely one of the top guys, but Aljo has cemented his resume. He's definitely up for the title shot next, and I think he's going to have a really good shot against Patreon.
The only thing is, man, the Russians, dude. The Russians, man. They are coming in the UFC and they are destroying everyone in sight. If you are from the Caucasus, that region, you know how to wrestle, and for some reason, you are going to be a UFC champion one day. So that is going to be it for that topic. All right, Dorian, next topic here. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but this is an MMA show, and you know that Conor McGregor is MMA. So in his recent interview, not his most recent interview, in the UFC 257 countdown, he said that he was going to KO Dustin Porier in under 60 seconds, and also the beds about a week and a half out right now are kind of crazy, leaning heavy toward Conor, almost enough to where you would have to put some toward Dustin Porier, just on a whim that he could possibly win this. So let's talk about it. What are your thoughts on him saying that he was going to KO Dustin Porier in under 60 seconds?
Well, of course, Conor always has to get into his bag of shenanigans, with his mind tricks and things of that nature. Conor has gotten to a point to where he's matured now, to where he doesn't really go for the mind games as much as he used to, and he doesn't have to really do that to sell a fight, because at this point, he's Conor McGregor. Mm-hmm. He's his own brand, proper 12, so he can kind of do his own thing. His name being on the marquee is good enough to sell the fight. But I do believe in the first fight that they had that Conor really did get in his head, and I believe that a good portion of Dustin getting knocked out was because he had a lot of pressure on him going into the fight. I believe that Conor isn't going to play as much mind games, but if he can plant seeds there to get Dustin thrown off his game a little bit, I believe that he's going to try to do that. But to say that he's going to knock him out in 60 seconds, man, no. I think it's more. Man. I think it's going to be more fight hype to get more people interested in it. Maybe a little jab at Dustin to maybe get him thrown off his game a little bit, but Dustin's came a long way since their first fight, man, and I don't see under 60 seconds. Absolutely. Unless he went in there with a baseball bat, I don't see how he's going to do it.
Baseball bat. All right. I will have to say that I'm going to disagree with you, Dorian. I do believe that Conor McGregor is going to get Dustin Porier out of there as quick as he said he was. Everyone that's surrounding Conor McGregor, everyone that has been interviewed, talked about him, said that it's the best he's ever looked, but they've also always said that this is the best he's ever looked. The only difference is Conor McGregor's back at 155. For those of you who don't know, this is Conor McGregor's third fight at 155. He is 1-1 at 155, and he has already won the championship. So, that being said, I believe as Conor is dialed back, Conor is in shape, he is ready to prove something, he is ready to go after that 155-pound championship, he is ready to give it his all, he is back. The Notorious is back. Mystic Mac is back. I believe it. I am sold that he is going out for blood. If you just take a look back at the Don Cerrone fight, I know Don Cerrone is not Dustin Porier, but it is just a taste of what I believe that we are about to see in this upcoming fight. But we're just going to go right into the early odds real quick. Right now, Conor McGregor is a minus 278 favorite over Dustin Porier, which is a plus 225. That is crazy at this point. Dustin Porier is an elite 155-pound championship UFC fighter. He was the interim championship. No one can take that away from him. He held that title, and he is being almost disgraced by being such a huge underdog in this fight.
Yeah, that's what kind of surprises me. And of course, I know a lot of the betting lines go for, who are they putting the money on the most. And I know more people are going to know Conor's name because Conor is that guy. Yeah. As I said, he's the brand and everything. But no, to throw dirt on Dustin's name like that, man, he's evolved. And really, since that Michael Johnson loss that he had, he's been a completely different fighter. And for them to discount him in that way, man. I mean, I would say there's going to be somebody who's going to throw some money on Dustin, and he might make them a happy camper. So
I know, man.
I would definitely, if I'm a betting guy, I'm definitely taking those odds.
I cannot disagree that I probably will put a few dollars on Dustin Poirier just because, you know, it's too much of it's too tasty to not just you know, just take a little dabble, you know. So
yeah, I mean, with that big of an underdog for as skilled of a fighter as he is, I mean, he's easily one of the top 3 lightweights.
I know,
in the division. So for them to have him as such an underdog as he is, and as talented as he is, you got to throw some money on him, because just for the chance that he can land a good shot and possibly get Conor out of there, you never know what can happen. It's the UFC, Definitely. And that's why we love the sport so much. But I think you got to throw a little bit on Dustin.
You have to. You have to. Yeah, man. All right. So we're not going to spend any more time on that. You know, we got our Mystic Mac in for the week. Up next, we are going to the top 3 fighters that you are looking forward to this year. Ones that don't have a bout scheduled, not really anything talked about. Just 3 fighters that you really enjoy. You enjoy watching. You love seeing them fight. Who are they? Go for your first one. Give it to me.
All right, man. And this is going to be a little weird, because it's like, why did you even think of him, man? But one of the first ones that I actually thought of when you had sent me this question the other day was actually Rafael dos Anjos. I want to see what he's going to be able to do in the 155-pound division, man. Okay. Because especially with Habib getting ready to relinquish the title because he's getting ready to retire, if we're to believe that that's going to happen, I mean, RDA is a former champion, and he's one of the best 155-pounders that the sport has seen. Definitely. And I know that Paul Felder took the fight on short notice last time, but he had a very good performance against a top 8 lightweight. And RDA is in a position right now to where if he wins one more fight against one of the top-ranked fighters, he can very easily jump into that title fight discussion, especially with the way that he can perform. Definitely. So he's definitely one of the guys that I'm looking forward to see if he can maybe make just a second run and see if he can reclaim that lightweight title.
Okay. I you know what? He is not someone that popped into my head, but I believe you have sold me on wanting to see RDA fight again. Like, he's just not someone that I just thought, I can't wait to see RDA. Number 1 for me, I'm a sucker. I cannot wait to see Sugar Sean O'Malley back in the octagon, dude. The Sugar Show, he just has that it factor, man. Just something about him. You just want to see this kid fight. You know, I cannot wait to see him back in the octagon. I read something or heard something that he was in February or March, so hopefully we can see him on a late February card or maybe even that March 6th card. It's already loaded, but I could see them throwing Sugar Sean on there to start the pay-per-view card or something like that. That would be a perfect spot for him. Get eyes on him, because this kid's serious. The last fight, I just really don't take too much into being kicked there. It's something that isn't, you can't plan for it, So, that being said, I want to see Sugar Sean O'Malley back in there. You got any reply from Dorian?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually a really good pick, and the same thing, like you said, with his leg collapsing the way it did. I believe it was just a good shot by Marlon Vera, but I'm not going to put too much stock into it, because I do believe that if that fight had went a little bit longer, that Sean O'Malley is the more technical and more skilled fighter. And that same injury actually happened to Michael Chandler in his fight in Bellator against Scott Primus. Yeah, and definitely. He actually ended up losing the fight similar to Sean O'Malley because of that, and a lot of people forget about that too. So I didn't put too much stock into that, and I definitely am ready to see if the Sugar Show can kind of take the next step into the bantamweight division. Can't
wait for the Sugar Show to come back. All right, number 2, Dorian, who you got?
All right, and so the other fighter I have that I want to see, man, is Robert Whittaker. And the reason being is because, man, I really feel bad for him, because I believe that Dana kind of misconstrued his words when he was saying that he wasn't necessarily ready for the 185 title fight at that moment when he had just came off the win against Jared Cannonier. But man, besides the one elbow that Darren Till landed against Robert Whittaker, he pretty much had a flawless performance against Darren Till.
I would have to agree.
Jared Cannonier, for someone who had been putting away a lot of dudes in that division, Robert Whittaker stood there and took the best of his shots and absolutely almost finished him in the 3rd round with that head kick. and he's been looking really sharp. And I really think besides Israel Adesanya, there's no one in the 185-pound division that's better than Robert Whittaker. I actually think he deserves a title shot because of his resume that he's been able to lay out there. But I just think that Dana kind of misconstrued his words. And of course, Izzy has the 205 title that he's going to be fighting for as well. So I think maybe if you put an interim title fight up for Robert Whittaker just until Izzy gets his fight with Jan and then has enough time to kind of recover from that fight and jump back down. But I'm definitely ready to see Robert Whittaker come in this year and kind of see if he can maybe even get the title back from Izzy.
Let me ask you this, kind of play off your pick. Who would you want to see Robert Whittaker fight for the interim or that number one contender spot?
So there's a lot of fights that's forming up at 185 right now. I know conventional picks have been Paulo Costa. There's one fight that's scheduled that's coming up. I believe it's in February or March, and I would like to see possibly Robert Whittaker fight Kevin Holland. If Kevin Holland can get past Derek Brunson with the wins that he's been able to put together, I believe Darren Till's coming off a loss, so you can't book him, and he came off a loss to Whittaker. Derek Cannonier also came off a loss to Whittaker, so I can't believe that you put him in there. Paulo Costa, he absolutely got smoked by Izzy. I don't see anybody wanting to see him fight for a title immediately right now. I think as far as buzz in the 185 division, especially if Kevin Holland can actually get the title fight against Whittaker and beat him. And we already seen Kevin Holland and Israel Adesanya kind of have a little mouthy words with each other once before.
Yeah.
So I would actually like to see what type of trash talk that could be, if he could actually get the interim title fight. But just in terms of who I would like to see Whittaker fight for an interim title, if he was to, definitely if Kevin Holland can get past Derek Brunson, I would definitely like to see that fight.
Okay. I cannot disagree with you. Robert Whittaker is someone that to me, he just doesn't have that makes me want to see him fight. He's a great fighter. I respect what all of these guys do, but for some reason, he just doesn't have, I guess, whatever it is that draws me to wanting to see fighters fight. Next for me, out of left field, you're definitely not going to see this coming. I'm going Thug Nasty Bryce Mitchell, the king of the twisters. I love this dude. The camo shorts guy. For some reason, I want to see this guy fight every single time. It's one of the only fighters that how do I say this? It's one of the only fighters that I'm waiting on him to just take him down. Get him in a twister. I'm just rooting for this dude 100% of the time. Thug Nasty, one of my favorite fighters to watch. He's young. He's coming through the 145 division. I don't know if he's big enough to compete with the Zabits, with the Ortegas, with the Volkanovskis, with the Maxes. I don't know if he's that big, but he sure is entertaining to watch. I love watching Thug Nasty fight. So that is my number two.
He's a very great personality.
Yeah.
And I still remember the interview that he did where he had talked about where he accidentally put the power drill in his pants and drilled his nuts in the power drill. So it's like, man, he's just a wild character. He comes out of left field, but he's very funny and he's very talented. I would like to see his striking progress a little bit more because I do think once he starts racking up wins and getting up into the top tier of the featherweight division, I think that will ultimately be his Achilles heel. But if he can sharpen that up, man, his ground game is absolutely nasty. He can submit you in damn near any way that he wants to. I would just like to see a more complete game from him. But as far as personality-wise, you definitely hit it on the head. I love seeing me some Bryce Mitchell fight.
All right. So who is your third fighter that you cannot wait to see fight this year?
Man, and this is another one that's going to come at a left field. And I think it's going to be another one of the guys that you'll maybe say that they don't create enough buzz for their fights. But just when I watch this guy fight, I get absolutely excited every time. And it's Vicente Luque.
Okay.
He's an absolute brawler. He's a killer. He's a fan favorite fighter. He had the one stumble against Stephen Thompson, which we've seen what Stephen Thompson is capable of. We've seen what he did to Jeff Neal in his last fight on one leg for the last portion of that fight, and he was still able to basically sweep all the rounds against Jeff Neal. But Vicente Luque is an absolute killer. That last fight he had against Randy Brown, I mean, he effortlessly put him away. Vicente Luque has power in his hands. He can absolutely strike. The dude puts on a damn near fight of the night every time I see him. I would like to see them match him up against more top tier welterweights, because I feel like they're kind of wasting away the wins that he racks up because they're just getting him to fight other undercard fighters, basically. I would like to see him possibly get a top 15, top 10 opponent, maybe like a Neil Magny, maybe the winner of Neil Magny versus Michael Chiesa, something like that, because I do believe Vicente Luque is like a top 12 welterweight at the moment. I don't have the rankings in front of me, but I believe he's a top 12 welterweight. I would like to see him get the opportunity to fight more of the top 10 guys, but he puts on a damn barn burner every time I see him fight, and I'm definitely excited to see whenever they announce his next fight.
Okay, he's just another guy. You know, for some reason, Mike Perry has that it factor that makes me want to watch Mike Perry fight. And when I saw Vicente Luque beat Mike Perry, I was just heartbroken. Everyone wants to see Mike Perry do well.
But that fight absolutely delivered.
It was such a great fight. Such a great fight.
Because Mike Perry has that fiery side to him. Vicente Luque isn't that fiery dude, but he fights that
Definitely.
way. I mean, he absolutely bites down and goes for it. I mean, and I can tell you, one of my top 5 favorite fights all time is Vicente Luque versus Brian Barberena.
Okay.
When they fought, it was an absolute slugfest. It was 1-1 going into the third round, and Vicente Luque put him away with like 8 seconds left in the third round. Every time I see this dude fight, I get excited. I'm jumping on my couch, so I'm definitely excited to see whoever he's slated to fight next.
Okay. For me, for my tough one, it was hard. I narrowed it down to 4, so I am going to throw out an honorable mention of Brandon Royval, the 125-pound contender, just recently lost to Brandon Moreno. This dude is like a mini Diaz. This dude, he comes to fight. He comes to finish. He gets knocked down. He knocks downs. He can submit you any way possible. I like Brandon Royval, but my third fighter that I cannot wait to see this year is Rafael Fiziev, dude. This dude is nasty on the feet. When Mark Jacasey thought that he was going to stand with him, that was hilarious. And in his last fight, dude, that guy, who did he fight last? Renato Moicano thought that, I guess, I don't know what he had in his head, but after about 45 seconds into that fight, it was very clear who was the better striker in that match. And Renato Moicano did not get the message, apparently, and his corner did not tell him, and he paid for it because of that. Rafael Fiziev is my third fighter that I cannot wait to see fight again this year. My only issue is he is in the 155-pound, right? Like he's a 155-pound division, so that division is stacked. So I don't know if we'll see him get to see the top fighters in the division, but he is definitely someone to watch out for. That dude is scary. His unbelievable striking.
Yeah, he definitely showed some scary striking against Renato Moicano in his last fight, and that matrix move that he pulled against Mark Diakase, where Diakase goes to throw the head kick, and he just absolutely leans back and just watches the kick go over his head.
Definitely.
And to have the instincts, if you finish watching the replay, he fires off a leg kick as soon as he does that back bend. So he's definitely a fighter that I'm looking forward to, and I love that honorable mention pick that you had said with Brandon Royval.
I just couldn't narrow it down. I was like, I want to see both these dudes fight again so bad. They're completely different weight divisions. It's two people that, they're not big names yet, but I believe at some point these dudes are going to be known by everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Brandon Royval, man. He had a bad break in his last fight against Moreno with the separated shoulder, which, the circumstances were what they were, and Brandon Moreno, as you've seen, he put up a very, very good effort against Figueiredo. Some people might have said he won the fight. Mm-hmm. So he was deserving to win, but it was just unfortunate to see it happen to Brandon Royval in that way, because we would have known if, if he maybe had went up against Figueiredo,
I know,
what
man.
would have happened? So
I know.
I'm definitely excited to see him fight next.
All right, Dorian. Moving right along, we are going to talk about the return of TJ Dillashaw. Dana White just recently said in an interview that he'll talk to TJ and he will let TJ decide what he wants to do, whether he wants to fight for the championship or if he wants to fight someone else. What do you think about Dana leaving that up to TJ like himself? Like, that's not something that I almost feel like he should work back into it, but give me your thoughts.
So hearing the comments at first, it does kind of sound a little weird, especially considering the fact that TJ is actually coming off a PED suspension and not anything that was a tainted supplement. He deliberately put EPO in his system so he could make 125 pounds. So he deliberately took a PED, admitted to it, and possibly still get the first chance for a title shot. But as far as name factor, I mean, is there anybody else in the bantamweight division that you could think of as far as a juicier matchup as TJ Dillashaw versus Aljamain Sterling or TJ Dillashaw versus Peter Yan? I mean, as far as name value, I mean, TJ is the guy, I believe. And I would love to actually see him return in a title fight if that was given the opportunity. But I could also understand the other side as well.
Definitely. Okay. All right. I'm just glad that you see where I'm coming from on this. It's not that he doesn't deserve it. Believe me, he works hard. Like you don't have to take EPO if you're not working hard. You know, like, it is a anemia, like medication for like fucking people that are like losing weight. Like, he had to take this to survive at this point. So he works hard to get where he's at. But where I'm coming from is, for what? Like, you didn't need to go get the 125-pound championship. Because of that, you lost everything you had gained. And it doesn't help that years ago, Alpha Male, Cody Garbrandt in specific, has been saying that he was on EPO. So the real question is, how long has he been on said drugs? And the question is he clean from them now, or what's really going on? To me, I really don't care too much, because I feel like these drug tests are so easily went around. And just look at Paulo Costa, for example. My statement is gone. My statement is that.
Yeah, man. I mean, and I can understand the argument with TJ coming off the PEDs and getting the title shot immediately. It almost seems like, what type of a punishment was that if, he comes right back and gets immediately into the title shot? And I do actually agree with what you said, in that he kind of actually ruined himself.
Definitely.
Going to 125, because he didn't necessarily have to. And it was already noted that Dana was trying to get rid of the division anyway. So it's like, you don't need to go get the title for a division that's going to be getting rid of. But I still like Dana leaving the door open for him, because TJ Dillashaw, just as far as his fighting style, the guy is an absolute killer, man. He's game. He goes for it. He's accepting of brawling, biting down, and kind of going for it. That first the first Cody Garbrandt fight kind of really shows that, getting dropped at the end of the first round and then being able to get back up in the second round and get Cody Garbrandt out of there, with the combo that he had set, getting right in the pocket and throwing that right hook and dropping Cody. He's just a phenomenal fighter to watch. So I would love to see him. I would love to see his first fight back be for a title.
Just a note on what you said. I still think that if there were 3 more seconds in the first round of their first fight, Cody Garbrandt would have retained that 135-pound championship. I'm just going to throw that out there.
I know Cody's your boy too, and believe me, I like Cody as well. It's not that I dislike Cody, but just I love the killer instinct of TJ Dillashaw. Okay. That's what kind of has me fanboying over him, because the dude absolutely puts his foot on your throat when he gets the opportunity.
I cannot disagree with you there. So let me go on and ask you, what are 2 different people that you could see TJ Dillashaw fighting in his return fight?
All right, so one of them, and I'm going to assume that he's not going to get the title fight first off, because if he does get the title fight, of course it's going to be between Aldo and Peter Yan. So I'm not going to rule those guys in right now. But one of them actually that they had been circling about for a little bit is actually Jose Aldo versus TJ Dillashaw.
Okay.
I absolutely love that fight, man. I think for Jose Aldo, a lot of people will say that they believe that he got ripped off in his first fight at bantamweight with Marlon. And then his second fight, he actually, against Peter Yan, put up a very good fight. And in that fifth round, in my opinion, I believe it was 2-2 going into the fifth. Now, the fifth round got so bad to the point to where, Jose Aldo was sitting in a pool of his own blood. So that definitely wasn't good, but he had put up a good effort in that fight until that point. So I would actually love to see him go up against Jose Aldo to see if Aldo can kind of get to that point to where he can be also fighting for the bantamweight championship again as well.
Okay. I will have to say that Jose Aldo is my number one person for TJ Dillashaw to fight coming back as well. I think it is a good judge to see where he's at. Like, Jose Aldo just lost to the championship. Technically, he lost the Marlon, but like that's the caliber that he is at. He is in that top three somewhere right there. So I do think that TJ Dillashaw coming back, I think Jose Aldo is a good test to see where he's at, because we had like the same number one. I'm gonna go ahead and go to my number two. Hopefully you don't have this one, but my number two is Corey Sandhagen. I also think that is a perfect fight to see where TJ Dillashaw is at. Corey Sandhagen just beat Marlon. The Aldo Yan fight is about to happen. Sterling just beat Corey Sandhagen, so if he wins, I don't see him getting that title shot. So depending if Aljamain Sterling beats Peter Yan, I think that TJ Dillashaw versus Aljamain Sterling is a perfect fight to see where he's at when he comes back.
Yeah, no, I absolutely believe that as well. And I remember even hearing TJ in an interview, I can't remember who it was with exactly, but stating that he actually used to be training partners with Sandhagen. They had both trained together in Colorado a couple of times. So I would actually like for that backstory to kind of be interlooped into the fight hype for that. So I actually would like that. I wanted to ask real quick, are Frankie Edgar and Corey Sandhagen actually booked right now to fight one another?
I haven't heard anything, but don't kill me if I'm wrong, because I honestly I don't know.
Well, and the reason why I'm asking is because I believe they actually are. And one of the guys I would like to see if he can actually pull off the win is actually Frankie Edgar. I actually love the Legends fight. Getting TJ Dillashaw in there with another big name, Jose Aldo being one of them, just one of the legends of the sport. Been in the game for a long time, and still looking well. Same thing with Frankie Edgar. Some people might say that Pedro Munoz won that last fight that they were in together, but he absolutely put up a great effort in that fight. I believe that he actually won the fight as well. He landed some good shots in there. He's actually looked good at 135 as well. And I actually love the name value that Frankie Edgar brings for TJ. And Frankie Edgar's actually ranked in the top 4 as well. Okay. So it kind of does two things for him as far as getting a name knocked off, another legendary name, and then being able to defeat a top 4 person in the bantamweight division. I believe that does a lot to put him closer to the bantamweight title spot.
Okay, I cannot disagree with you. I honestly just forgot that excuse me, like that Frankie Edgar finally dropped down like the 135. Like he finally had like that debut after all these years. He should have been at 135 this entire time. He's finally down there though. As you were talking about like the legends and everything, one name popped in my head. I thought you were going to say it, but you didn't. Uriah Faber. Could you imagine finally getting Uriah Faber versus TJ Dillashaw? I feel like it should just happen at this point. Like, come on now. Come on. Just give it to us. Just give it to us.
And I love the backdrop. The only thing that I feel like like that story has already been played out through the Cody Garbrandt saga.
Yeah.
Especially with the Ultimate Fighter. So the Ultimate Fighter leading into their first fight was absolutely amazing. I love that season of the Ultimate Fighter. They did a very good job in hyping that. And then even in the second fight, I thought they did very well hyping that fight. But a lot of the storyline was the alpha male stuff. I feel like if he was to fight Uriah Faber, a lot of the stuff is going to get rehashed. And I've heard the story enough. I don't need to hear it too many more times.
Yeah.
And I also believe that Uriah Faber, at this point in his career, he's just a little bit past it at this point. And I actually think that would be a very easy win for TJ.
Hey,
and even though,
the California kid still. Don't forget, the California kid still.
Yeah, the California kid. He's actually signing up for AARP as we speak.
All right.
And look, don't get me wrong. He actually looks like his physique. He looks great. He still looks like he's about, in his late 20s as far as his face goes. The guy will never age as far as his looks go. But just his fighting style, I think he's past it at this point. And I wouldn't mind seeing the TJ fight, but I think I've seen enough of the alpha male storyline to where I don't need to keep beating a dead horse.
Fair enough. I can't knock you on that. But we will move on to lastly. We will be breaking down the fight card for this weekend. UFC Fight Night, Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar. We're just going to go dive right into the main event first, and then we will talk about just the rest of the card, anything else. Main event, Dorian, Max Holloway, Calvin Kattar. What does a win for each one of these do? What will it do, and what will a loss do? Go ahead.
Man, I gotta say, I absolutely love this fight. Just the stylistic matchup. And one of the big things is that this is actually on ABC. So for them to roll out the red carpet for Calvin Kattar and Max Holloway says really how much the UFC thinks of them. Because, being able to roll them out on the very first ABC main event, I think that's huge for the UFC. But in terms of the matchup between Kattar and Holloway, I absolutely love it, dude. Calvin Kattar has just the most crisp boxing. His hands are so sharp. The dude is absolutely ferocious. And it seems like he's actually getting better with each fight. He put the lights out on Jeremy Stephens with that devastating elbow. And then followed it up with a 5-round complete fight against Dan Ige as well.
That straight elbow, like the Jeremy Stephens dude, that was like one of the first times I had ever seen that. I'm like, oh, he actually knocked him out? He knocked him out with that.
yeah. The way he set him up with it was actually beautiful. So he was anticipating Stephens throwing the right hand. So he actually has his hands stretched out to sweep his hands under so he could then step in with the elbow. Like, Calvin is a very advanced fighter, man.
Definitely.
So Max is definitely going to have his hands full. But we all know Max Holloway, man. One of the legends of the sport, one of the legends of the 145-pound division. Some people will tell you that they believe that he actually won the last fight against Alexander Volkanovski. I believe that he did as well.
He dropped him twice. Dropped him twice, man.
Dropped him twice, and I believe he actually outstruck him on the totals when it got to the end of the fight. Now, I don't have the statistics in front of me, so I can't tell you for sure.
I got you.
I feel like I remember seeing Max having a higher strike count and had more significant moments in the fight overall. So, yes, I do believe he actually won that fight. But I think a win for Calvin Kattar, I think it gets him right into that title shot. I think with 145 right now, especially with Max kind of log jamming the division, with the rematches with Volkanovski, and Brian Ortega kind of cemented his spot as the next contender that's going to fight for the title. The only one that you could really make the argument for is Zabit, but we haven't seen him in so long. I almost actually forgot about him until sitting here thinking about it. Like, who else would deserve a title shot other than Calvin Kattar if Calvin Kattar's pull off the win, especially with the resume that he's put together so far. And then to top it off with a Max Holloway win, regardless of how you do it, but especially if he finishes him, he's definitely going to be fighting for the title. And I think for Max Holloway, I think it's just, if he wants to try to get back to the 145-pound title, he's going to have to stack wins, man. And it's going to have to be against guys like Calvin Kattar, guys that are coming up that are hungry and looking for their first title shot. And, a lot of times they say fighters coming off losing the championship, it's hard for them to get that fire back under them because they've already been there and done that. So I just want to see where Max is at. And if he really wants to go back for that 145-pound title, he's going to have to start stacking wins similar to his first run that he did before he got the 145-pound title. And it's going to have to start with killers like Calvin Kattar.
Hey, it's true. It's true. Like I said, if like Max wins off the top for me, I don't see him fighting Alexander again anytime soon. So unless Ortega can beat Volkanovski, I don't see like Max fighting again for the championship anytime soon. If Calvin Kattar wins, on the other hand, I do believe he could be next in line. If not, maybe like a number one contenders fight, rematching Zabit in a 5-round fight. I would definitely like to see that because in their first fight, like Zabit did win, but that third round was getting real sketchy. So I do believe that is a fight that I would like to see in a 5-round main event. Let these two dudes fight for who has next after the Volkanovski versus Ortega fight. I wouldn't be mad at that. A loss, if Max loses this fight, I don't know what to think, man. I could see him maybe fighting Korean Zombie. I actually think that's a perfect fight. Max versus Korean Zombie if he does not beat Calvin Kattar. I think that's a perfect fight. If Calvin Kattar loses, man, I almost feel like he's already beat everyone. So who does Calvin Kattar even fight if he loses this next? I don't know.
and it's tough for Max because Max also has cleaned out the division.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, who can you put him up against next? And I know you were speaking of, what's going to happen if he loses. I mean, I think if he loses, you don't think about it because the Volkanovski fights are so close, but that'll be 3 losses in a row that he's got.
Definitely.
And especially in the 145-pound division where the killers are starting to come alive now.
They don't have anything else to do. They're not going to the NFL. They're not going to the NBA. They're fighting. These athletes are fighting, so...
Yeah, absolutely, man. They're starting to come up, and I think if Max loses, man, he can possibly consider a move up to 155, maybe just for a fresh start. Because I think
better
if he
start
loses 3 in a row,
he better start eating and lifting.
if he loses 3 in a row, I mean, as far as him getting a featherweight title shot, I mean, it's going to take him forever to get a featherweight title shot. Not to say that he's not going to take a long time at 155, but I believe with the name that he has built at 145, he's going to be more liable to get top matchups in the lightweight division. So I think if he loses, he might want to actually reconsider possibly moving up weight classes, because if he wants another title shot, it's not going to come anytime soon if he's on a 3-fight losing streak in that division.
Definitely not. So I think we are both in agreement. Who do you got for this fight, Dorian? Who are you picking? Max Holloway, or are you picking Calvin Kattar for this fight? Who do you think is taking this one home?
And this fight is very tough right now, man, because
Hold on.
Both of them have similar styles.
Right before you start, let me toss this out to you. I actually just now saw this. Max Holloway has a shorter reach than Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar, 72-inch reach. Max Holloway, 69-inch reach. I did not know that before, looking at this right now. So that's something to kind of keep your eye on, because Max usually keeps his distance and overwhelms people, but Calvin Kattar's got a longer reach.
Well, and the tough part about that is that Max Holloway is 5'11" with a 69-inch reach. Isn't Volkanovski
same height?
5'7"?
Same height.
Also has,
who?
Alexander Volkanovski.
Okay.
He also has a longer reach than Max Holloway.
Yeah.
And he's about 4 inches shorter, though.
Yeah.
Max is in a very peculiar position with his height being the way it is in that division, and his reach actually being a disadvantage to him. But one of his styles is that he's very good at controlling the range. I think Calvin Kattar with his boxing, I do believe that he has a similar style to Dustin Porier, which actually gave Max a lot of problems. I think Calvin Kattar's a very heavy-handed fighter, sharp boxing, very good with the combos. But I believe in the end, especially at the level of competition that Max has fought compared to Calvin Kattar, I think I got to ride with Calvin Kattar, man. Max Holloway. I got to ride with Max. I gotta botch that one, but I gotta ride with Max Holloway, man. I believe he's had a lot more high level experience fights than Calvin Kattar has, and I think a 5-round unanimous decision, Max Holloway walks away with the W.
You say 5-round unanimous decision, so you think Max Holloway win by decision at the end of the day? I'm just gonna throw the odds at you real quick. This is ABC/ESPN. Max minus 160 favorite over Calvin, like a minus 135 underdog. I'm sorry, plus 135 underdog. So it's kind of a close fight, but Max is definitely like the favorite, like the win. It's a tough one for me because it's like Calvin Kattar is good. You've seen him beat everyone, but have you seen him beat anyone elite in the 145-pound division? That is my question. And just because of that, I gotta ride with Max. Max is my guy. I'm gonna pick Max. Once, just like you, I think he will win by decision. The only way I see Calvin winning is if he is just somehow able to get Max out of there. He just can't keep up with the pressure because Kattar also puts pressure, but Max puts pressure. Whose pressure is going to work more, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to say Max wins by decision as well.
Yeah, and I think Max has a more diverse style of attack. I think although Calvin is dangerous, he's more boxing based, so he has very good hands, but he isn't as effective with the kicks as Max is. I think Max can sneak in the leg kicks. He actually dropped Volkanovski with a head kick in their last fight. He has a much more diverse style of attack. He has a spinning back body kick that he likes to throw a lot of times to throw opponents off. I think he has a more diverse style, and that's what's going to get him the win.
Okay. I cannot disagree with you there, though. So, co-main event, we will go Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown. Two old heads. These dudes are pioneers in the sport, man. Like, this fight is maybe, I don't want to jinx it yet. This fight may happen. This fight has already been booked a couple of times now. Carlos Condit keeps making jokes saying, wrap Matt Brown in like some bubble wrap so he can get to the fight. Just things like that, just poking fun at him. It's been going on. This fight has been scheduled a couple of times, as I said. What do you think is going to happen here, Dorian?
Man, I think a lot similar to you, two legends of the sport finally getting ready to throw it down. Not quite as severe as Tony and Khabib curse, but similar to, I know they've been booked about 2 or 3 different times in the past before, and the fight has just never came to fruition for one side or the other. The fight has never came together. But I actually do really like this fight. I know that Carlos Condit coming off his last win, I believe it was against Court McGee. That was his first win, I believe, since like 2015. Which is actually crazy to think that Carlos Condit...
He hasn't fought that often, though. That's the thing. Like, he usually fights, once a year, once every 2 years.
Yeah, something like that. But I know that he was on about a 4 or 5 fight losing streak before he had finally got that win against Court McGee. But he actually looked really good in that fight. He actually looked a little bit more rejuvenated. I think in his losses to like Alex Oliveira, I believe he also lost to Michael Chiesa. I believe a lot of those fights, he just didn't look motivated. He just didn't look like he had that fire about him. I believe in this last fight, he kind of got that fire back. And Matt Brown, you don't have to question whether that dude has any fire or whatever, because that dude absolutely brings a fight every time. Whenever he walks to the octagon, he absolutely looks like a hard ass who is ready to take your head off if you even breathe his way. So I love the intensity that he brings to every fight. And I believe for him as well, because his last fight was against Miguel Baeza, young up-and-comer in the welterweight division. That dude's going to be very good, but I don't need to see Matt Brown fighting the young guys at this point. I believe he's 40 years old now. He's kind of in the twilight of his career. So I actually really love the matchup with him and Condit, being able to finally get it on after all these years, and the perfect stylistic matchup in terms of both the guys being veterans.
I cannot disagree with you there. Like you said, two pioneers of the sport. I do think that Carlos Condit gets it done here. He just seems to be the more fresher fighter. Like Matt Brown, his just last few fights, he just hasn't just looked so good, man. And he just seems to be injury prone. His last good performance, in my opinion, was when he KO'd Diego Sanchez with that elbow right down the road here from my house at the Norfolk ODU. Or, I don't know. I don't even remember what it was called, but it's right down the road here. I watched live in person Matt Brown hit Diego Sanchez with the craziest elbow, and I thought Diego Sanchez had died. So that is that's the main and the co-main event. I'm just gonna run down just the rest of the fights real quick. We've got Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Li Jinliang. We've got Joaquin Buckley versus Alexio Di Chiricho. I don't know how to say his name. Hopefully that's correct. We'll come back to that one because I know that you do want to talk about Joaquin Buckley. Up next, we've got Punahele Soriano versus the Dusko Todorovic. Yeah, I practiced that one. Best believe that one. And then
I was like, man, how'd you get that? I was like, come on, man.
The main event on the prelims, Philip Halls versus Nasruddin Imoyev. Right below that, we have Wu Yunan versus Jocelyn Edwards. Carlos Felipe versus Justin Tafa. Actually a good fight. That is a good one to put midway through the prelims. David Zawada versus Ramazan Imaev. I believe that's how you say that. We've got, I believe her name is Cheesecake Sarah Morris versus Vanessa Mello. Dude, every time this girl fights, I'm just like, I'm worried for her. It's kind of like Roxanne. I'm just worried for Roxanne sometimes. I feel the same about Sarah Morris. They just worry me sometimes. Like, do you really belong in there? I don't know. I'm going to be rooting for her with her record of 6-7, going up against Vanessa Mello at 10-8. And then to start off the night, we have Jacob Kilburn versus Austin Lingo. That will be all on ESPN Plus or ABC. Or no, the prelims are on ESPN Plus, and the main card is on ABC and ESPN Plus. Any fights outside of the Joaquin fight that you want to look at, Dorian?
I do want to talk about the Joaquin Buckley fight, so I do want to circle around to that.
Okay.
But one of the fights that I'm actually looking forward to as well is actually Santiago Ponzinibbio. Seeing his return. I know that the last time he fought, ESPN didn't even have a UFC deal.
Definitely not.
UFC deal with Fox.
Definitely.
So it just goes to show how long it's been since he's actually been in the Octagon. I believe he actually had a fight slated against Robbie Lawler. I believe it was late 2019.
I believe it was somewhere. I believe it was actually in Argentina too. It was his homecoming fight, and something happened, and that fight didn't happen. So I don't remember 100% what happened, but yeah, it has been a long time since he's fought. He's fighting Li Jinliang, new Chinese prospect. The UFC is trying to break into China. This is a dude that just looks crazy. The dude just goes out and wings punches. This dude is, he's an interesting fighter for sure. So that will definitely be an interesting fight. Who do you got there, by the way? Do you got Santiago Ponzinibbio or Li Jinliang?
This fight is actually very tough. I believe that Neil Magny actually showed if you're the more technical fighter, that I believe you can actually defeat Li Jinliang. Li Jinliang is a wild and crazy fighter, and he pulls shots out of nowhere. But I do believe ultimately that the ring rust is going to be something for Santiago Ponzinibbio to get over, man, especially considering the fact that the last time he fought was over 2 years ago, and he fought in front of a big crowd. Now he's going to be going to a fight in front of no crowd at all. I believe the atmosphere is going to be completely different, and I believe that's actually going to lead towards Li Jinliang getting a win. I say by decision.
Okay. I'm going to disagree with you there. I think Santiago Ponzinibbio coming back, he's just going to show everyone what they've been missing out on the past 2 years that he's been gone. He's ready. He's been training. He's just ready to put it out on the line. I think he's going to show this new up-and-comer. It's just, for me personally, it's the experience. he has so much more experience in the UFC like than Li Jinliang does. He's still like a new up and comer, but who knows what happens? You know, it's for one thing, it's going to be a good fight for sure. I'm definitely excited to see that fight. But as I said, I'm going to go with Santiago Ponzinibbio winning that fight. So I guess let's go to the Joaquin Buckley real quick. Joaquin Buckley versus Alessio De Chiricho. I'm going to say it like that. Hopefully I didn't destroy that dude's name. But what do you got to say, Dorian? I know who you're going for, but...
Yeah, and of course you got to say Joaquin Buckley. Mm-hmm. He's absolutely on a roll right now. It's hard to believe that his introduction fight into the UFC was against Kevin Holland, and Kevin Holland actually smoked him in that fight. That fight wasn't close. And Kevin Holland got the late third round knockout to kind of put the cherry on top of that fight. But ever since then, you know, Joaquin Buckley has been an absolute killer. You know, that knockout against Kasanganai, of course.
Everyone's seen it.
Around the world. Yeah. I mean, of course, you know, if you hadn't heard about it by now, I mean, are you really an MMA fan?
Right,
and,
yeah.
Of course, you know, his last fight as well, I can't remember the gentleman's name that he actually fought, but, you know, he had a brutal knockout in that fight as well, so I actually like the performance. I want to see, you know, if he can actually make a move up in the middleweight division, because he's actually one of the guys similar to Izzy. He actually doesn't cut that much weight. I know they said that, you know, his last fight, you know, fight day, he's walking around drinking water and things of that nature because he's actually weighing under the 185 limit.
That's because those D cups that he carries around needs fuel, Dorian.
What's that?
Those massive D cups that he carries around needs fuel.
Yeah. It's crazy to see just how big he is, his physique, and he doesn't even cut weight. So it makes you wonder if he can actually make 170 and make possible title runs there. But he's like one of the crops of the new guys who aren't cutting weight to make the division. So I like that as far as his long-term ability, because it'll keep his chin replenished to where he's not draining himself, you know, day of and having those poor performances. So I'm really looking forward to see kind of how he can add so far to the killer resume that he's starting to put together right now.
Okay. I will agree with you. I will take Joaquin Buckley in that fight as well. I just honestly don't know too much about the guy he's fighting. I don't think I've ever seen him fight before. Everyone's seen Joaquin Buckley. And if I know the UFC, they are going to set Joaquin Buckley up with a perfect fight to showcase, you know, what his last fight looked like. Dude, like they're just going to set him up perfectly just so he can continue to grow on what he's already building. Yeah, so I will take Joaquin Buckley in that fight as well. Right before we go on to the next fight, who did you pick in the Matt Brown versus Carlos Condit fight? Who do you have winning that one?
I'm sorry. I thought I made my pick. I'm actually going with Matt Brown.
Okay.
I think Matt Brown's been a little more active. I think ultimately that's what's going to get him the W.
Okay.
Even though his last fight against Miguel Baeza, he might have gotten knocked out, but he actually had Miguel Baeza hurt in that fight as well. I believe that Matt Brown can kind of summon that killer instinct more than Carlos Condit can. You know, Carlos Condit's he's looked complacent in his last few fights. So I think Matt Brown gets the W. Okay.
And the last fight on the main card, Punahele Soriano, undefeated fighter, going up against Dudusko Todorovic, also undefeated. These two dudes, two undefeated fighters, starting off the main card. Who do you got here, man?
Ooh, and I'm not going to lie, I hadn't seen too many of the clips of either of the fighters. We're trying to actually do a last-second Wikipedia search to make sure exactly who I'm going to pick here for the win. As far as just picking just for the hell of it, I want to go with Soriano for the win.
All right, Punahele Soriano is Dorian's pick. I'm going to go with Dudusko Todorovic. This dude looks like he is a creature out of a movie. He looks like, I don't even know how to explain it. This dude is, if I'm correct, I don't know if it's the same guy that I'm thinking about, but this dude has no eyebrows, like no facial hair. This dude looks nuts. And if this is the same dude, I'm picking Dudusko Todorovic. And, you know, I practice his name, so I'm going to pick him as well. That is going to be my pick. He seems to have just a little bit more experience than Punahele Soriano, but I do believe that Punahele Soriano is a Hawaiian fighter, might possibly train out of the same area, like the Max trains and what's his name, Coconut Bombs, Maki Pitolo. I also like him. Like I want to say like they all train like together, so it's definitely going to be an interesting fight. Two relatively unknown fighters, but they are getting the showcase in the start of the main card. It's for sure going to be a banger. Like the UFC always knows what they're doing on their card placement. So as far as the prelims go, Dorian, is there any fights on the prelim that you want to touch on?
One fight, and I want to see Phil Hall versus Nasruddin Imavov.
Okay.
I actually want to see that fight because Philip Hall's, he was one of the guys that came.
It's a big guy.
Oh gosh, yes, this dude is an absolute killer, man. And he came from the Contender Series. I believe his first shot around, Dana actually didn't give him a contract. So he had ended up getting the contract on his second return to the Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. I believe his first fight went to decision. It was a little bit lackluster. His second one, he landed an absolute beautiful combo and got the dude out of there. And then in his UFC debut, he did similar to the same. I'm wanting to see. I know that I've heard Rashad Evans talk on multiple podcasts before, and he's put the absolute jetpack on this guy's back and has told us how much this guy is a killer and he's going to be making moves. Very heavy-handed, and I'm excited to see what he can do for the 185 division.
I always take, like Rashad says, with not too much to my heart though, because he also said that Greg Hardy was a lot better than what he is clearly shown on the ground. This dude looked like he had never laid on the ground before and had a person stand over him. He did no clue what to do at all. But I am excited to see Philip Hall's fight. I always root for the Contender Series guys. If there is one fight on the prelim card that I cannot wait to see, it's the big boys. Justin Tafa, Carlos Felipe, the two dudes, you know, they're just going to go in, they're swinging. Somebody's getting knocked out that fight or it's going to be really boring. One of the two is going to happen. They're either going to get tired or someone is going to get knocked out. So that is the fight on the undercard that I am looking forward to.
And they could also get tired and then get knocked out as well.
True.
Heavyweights are very capable of doing that as well.
Definitely. You never know what you are going to run into with the heavyweights. But that being said, Dorian, is there anything else that you want to add to today's show?
No, man, other than excited to kind of see, you know, how far we can really take this thing. You know, this is something that, again, you know, we talked about it for a little bit doing this, so being able to actually kind of, you know, make it come to fruition, I'm willing to, you know, I'm really wanting to see how far we can take this thing and do the podcast thing.
Cool, man. You know, I cannot say that is not my goal as well. We've been talking about this for so long. So that being said, I haven't said it yet. For all of you out there that haven't already, if you enjoyed this, please leave a thumbs up on this video. And if you want to see more videos just like this every week, we're going to do a fight breakdown every Sunday after the Saturday night fights, and we're going to go every Wednesday previewing the upcoming fights. And then every Friday, I will be doing a post weigh-in bets breakdown for all of you who care what I think, who I think is going to win, who I'm putting my personal money on to try to gain some bank. All of those videos every week. So like I said, like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to hit us up, our Instagram is the Golden Octagon. Our Twitter is Golden Octagon. Both all one word. And if you want to email us, hit us. Please email us at goldenoctagonmma@gmail.com. But that is all for today, guys. Anything else, Dorian? You good? All right, dude. That's it.
Good.
All right. We'll catch you next time, guys. Stay golden.